හරි වෙලාව 7:35යි අපි පටන් ගමු 22 දෙනෙක් එකතු වෙලා ඉන්නවා අද සෙෂන් එකට. අද ඇත්තටම මේ සෙෂන් එක අපි ගන්න හේතුනේ ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් එකත් එක්ක බොහොම අලුතෙන් එකතු වෙච්ච කිහිප දෙනෙක්ගේම ඉල්ලීමක් තිබුණා. යම් යම් කාරණා ටිකක් කතා කරන්න ඕන කියලා. එකක් තමයි ලිබරලිසම් වලටත් පදනම වෙන්නේ මොකක්ද කියන එක ගැන ටිකක් ෆිලොසොෆිකලි දැනුවත් කිරීමක් තිබුණොත් හොඳයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා තමයි අද මේ වැඩසටහන මේ ආකාරයෙන් අපි ගන්න තීරණය කරේ. ඒ අපි අතරින් අපි කිහිප දෙනා මුලින්ම ඒ ගැන දැනුවත් වෙලා ඉන්න ඕන නිසා. මොකද අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපි කතා කරන හැම දෙයකටම තර්කානුකූල පදනමක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට අපි වටිනාකම් ගැන කතා කරනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි සමාජයේ මොනවා හරි දෙයක් සිද්ධ වුණාම අපි ඒක වටිනාකම් තුලින් බලන්න උත්සාහ කරනවා. ඒක තමයි වැදගත් වෙන්නේ. නිකන් ආවට ගියාට මොනවා හරි දෙයක් තියෙන හින්දා අපිට කටක් තියෙන හින්දා හෝ අපි කතා කරන්න ඕන හින්දා අපි කතා කරනවට වඩා අපි මොකක්ද කතා කරන්නේ සහ අපි මොකක් ගැනද කතා කළ යුත්තේ සහ නොකළ යුත්තේ කියන මේ දේවල් අපි විසින්ම තීරණය කරගෙන තමයි අපි මම හිතන්නේ අපි කතා කරන්න ඕන වෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා අපිට වටිනාකම් මටක් තියනවා වගේම මේ හැමදේම පදනම් වෙන බේස්මන්ට් එකකුත් තියෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ ඒක රීසන් කියන එක. ඒ වගේම තමයි අපිත් අරමුණ අපි හැමදෙනාම ඇත්තටම තර්කානුකූල මිනිස්සෙක් වෙන එක ජීවිතේ. මොකද හරි රේසි වෙන කෙනෙක්ගේ න්‍යාය පත්‍රයක් වෙන කෙනෙක් කියන දෙයක් අපේ කරගෙන කතා කරන්න. නමුත් ඕනෑම දෙයක් ගැන අපේම අනුමිතියක් ගොඩනගාගෙන කතා කරන එක ටිකක් අමාරුයි. ඒ නිසා තමයි අපි මං හිතන්නේ මේ වගේ සංකල්ප ගැන වුණත් ඉගෙන ගන්න ඕන. කෙනෙක් හිතන්න පුළුවන් ඇයි මේ වගේ අපි සංකල්ප ගැන න්‍යායන් ගැන දැනගන්න ඕන ඉගෙන ගන්න ඕන කියලා. ඇත්තටම මේව ගැන ඉගෙන ගත්තාම තමයි ඕනම දෙයක් විශ්ලේෂණය කරන්න විශ්ලේෂණාත්මකව හිතන්න අපිට පුරුදු පුහුණු වෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා තමයි ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් එක ගොඩක් වෙලාවට වටිනාකම් මත පදනම් වෙලා අපේ වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්නේ. ඒ නිසා එකතු වෙලා ඉන්න හැමදෙනාම නම් මං හිතන්නේ මට පේන විදිහට ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් එකේ ඉන්න සමාජිකයන් නමුත් කවුරු හරි ඉන්නවා නම් ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා දන්නේ නැති මම කැමති විනාඩි 2-3ක් අරගෙන ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා කියන්න. ඇත්තටම ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් කියලා කියන්නේ මීට හරියටම මාස 9කට කලින් තරුණයන් කීප දෙනෙක් එකතු වෙලා පටන් ගත්ත කිසියම් සංවිධානයක් අරමුණ උනේ අපේ රටේ අවුරුදු 75ක් තිස්සෙම අපේ රටේ මිනිස්සු අපි ඇතුළුව තරුණ පිරිස අපි මේ හැමදෙනාම අපිට ඉලක්කයක් නැතුව අරමුණක් නැතුව එහෙ මෙහෙ යනවා. හේතුව අපේ දේශපාලන ක්‍රමයේ විසින් කවදාවත් අපිට අපේ රටේ ඉලක්කය මේකයි කියලා පෙන්නලා දීලා නැහැ. ඒ නිසා අපිටවත් හිතෙන්නේ නැහැ ඇයි අපි මහන්සි වෙලා වැඩ කරන්න ඕන අපි මොකක්ද අරමුණු කරගන්න ඉලක්කේ රටක් විදියට. ඒතර අපේ ජීවිත සම්බන්ධයෙන් උනත් අපි දන්නේ මොනවද අපිට තියෙන වටිනාකම් කියන එක. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා තමයි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මොනවා හරි සමාජයේ කැළඹීමක් හරි මොනවා හරි සිදුවීමක් වුණාම ඉවක් බවක් නැතුව මොනවා හරි පැත්තක් අරගෙන අපිට ටිකක් හරි එකඟ වෙන්න පුළුවන් පැත්තක් අරගෙන අපි කලබල වෙලා කටයුතු කරන්නේ. ඒ නිසා මේ අපි තරුණ පිරිස වෙන්න පුළුවන් මේ අපේ මේ තරහ ආවේගයන් වලට වැඩ කරනවට වඩා එක්ක සංවේදී වෙලා කටයුතු කරනවට වඩා හැඟීම්බර වෙලා කටයුතු කරනවට වඩා තර්කයන් මත පදනම් වෙලා කටයුතු කරන්න ඕන තරුණ පිරිසක් සහ රටේ පුරවැසියන් නිර්මාණය කරගන්න ඕන කියන එක මත තමයි මේක පටන් ගන්න. එතකොට මේක ආරම්භයේදීම අපි අපේ අරමුණුනේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ දේශපාලන සාක්ෂරතාවය වර්ධනය කරන්න සහ සහභාගීත්ව දේශපාලනය වර්ධනය කරන්න. ඒක දේශපාලනයේ විෂය විතරක් නෙමෙයි සහභාගීත්වයෙන් යුතු සමාජයක්. ඒ කියන්නේ ඉන්ක්ලූසිව් සොසයිටි එකක්, ඉන්ක්ලූසිව් පොලිටික්ස් කියන එක ඇති කරන්න ඕන කියන එක අපි දැඩි ලෙසම විශ්වාස කරා. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි සමහරලාට මේ Zoom session එකට හරි එකතු වෙලා ඉන්න අපෙන් මේ මුළු රටම නියෝජනය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. රටේ මීට එහා ගම්වල නගරේ වුණත් තව තැනක. ඒකට මේ මොහොතේ රට දාලා ගිහිල්ලා ඉන්න පිරිසුණත් අපේ රටේ විවිධ තැන්වල විවිධාකාරයෙන් පීඩණයෙන් ඉන්න අදහස් තියෙන නමුත් ඒවා පිට කරගන්න බැරි තමන්ගේ ජීවිතයේ සිහින තමන්ට ඉටු කරගන්න බැරි නමුත් ඒ වෙනුවෙන් සිහින ගොඩනගන යම් කිසි පිරිසක් ඉන්නවා කවදාවත් මේ දෙයට සහභාගී වෙන්න බැරි මේ තමන් සහභාගී කියන හැඟීම තමන්ට ඇති වෙන්නේ නැති පිරිසක් එහා ඉන්නවා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා තමයි අපි ස්වේච්ඡාවෙන් එකතු වෙච්ච ඒ තරුණ පිරිස කටයුතු කරන්නේ මේක සහභාගීත්වයෙන් යුතු සමාජයක් සහභාගීත්වයෙන් යුතු දේශපාලන ක්‍රමයක් රටට ඇති කරන්න. ඉතින් එහෙම නිකන් ඇති කරන්න බෑ. ඒකට වටිනාකම් ඕන නිසා අපි වටිනාකම් මටක් පදනම් කරගත්තේ. වටිනාකම් අපිට හම්බෙන්නේ ලිබරල් වාදයේ තුලින් නිසා තමයි මේක ලිබරල් තරුණ ව්‍යාපාරය වෙන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ මේකේ වටිනාකම් පිළිබඳ කතාව. ඒ වටිනාකම් අපි කොහොමද ලයිෆ් ස්ටයිල් අයිඩියොලොජි එකක් කරන්නේ කියන එක තමයි අපි වෙහෙසෙන්නේ. ඒ වෙනුවෙන් අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් සතිපතා Zoom sessions කරා සමාජයේ මොනවා හරි කතා බහට ලක් වෙන සිදුවීමක් දේශපාලනයේ ආර්ථිකයේ සිදුවෙන දෙයක් අපි මේ ලිබරල් වටිනාකම් මට තුලින් සාකච්ඡා කරා. ඒකට අපි ශාස්ත්‍රයේ ඉන්න එක්ස්පර්ට්ස්ව සම්බන්ධ කරගෙන තමයි මේ කටයුත්ත කරේ. ඊට පස්සේ අපි මාසිකව ෆිසිකල් සෙෂන් එකක් කරනවා. අපි ඉලක්ක කරන සමාජයේ ගොඩනගා ගන්න අවශ්‍යයි කියලා හිතෙන මාතෘකා අරගෙන ඒ මාතෘකා පිළිබඳ ගැඹුරෙන් අපි කතා කරනවා. ඉතින් ආසන්න වශයෙන් අපි කරා data protection law. මොකද data privacy කියන එක සහ right to information තොරතුරු දැන ගැනීමට තියෙන අයිතිය සහ අපේ තොරතුරු සහ අපේ දත්තවල පුද්ගලිකත්වය ආරක්ෂා කරගන්න අපේ මේ සෝෂල් මීඩියා වල අපි ඉන්නවා. එකෙන් එහා පැත්තේ තියෙන කම්පියුටරෙන් පිටිපස්සේ තියෙන නීතිය ගැන සමාජයේ අස්සක් මුල්ලක් නැරින හැම කෙනෙක්ම දැනුවත් කරන්න අවශ්‍යයි කියන නිසා අපි ඒ ආකාරයෙන් ආසන්න වශයෙන් වැඩසටහනක් කරා සහ ඒක අඛණ්ඩව ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙනවා. මොකද නිතරම සයිබර් අවකාශයේ තරුණ පිරිස් ඕනෑම කෙනෙක් බුලි වෙන ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි, මේ නීතිය දන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වගේම තොරතුරු දැනගැනීමට අයිතියක් තියෙනවා, අදහස් ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න අයිතියක් තියෙනවා. වගේම ඒහා ගැටෙන තවත් අයිතිවාසිකම් මේ නිදහස් සමගින නිසා අපි ඒ පිළිබඳව අන්තර්ජාතික සහ දේශීය නීතිය පිළිබඳව කතා කරන වැඩසටහනක් ආසන්න වශයෙන් කළා. මීට අමතරව ලිබරල් තරුණ ව්‍යාපාරයට මුල ඉඳන්ම මාධ්‍ය වලින් එක්ස්පෝෂර් අපිට හම්බුණා. ඒ නිසා අපිට අපේ වටිනාකම් ගැන වගේම කාලීනව කතා බහට ලක් වෙන මාතෘකා අපි ලිබරල් වැලියුස් through බලන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක පුළුවන් ආකාරයට අපි සමාජගත කරන්න කටයුතු කරා. ඉතින් මාස 9ක් අපි මේ ආකාරයෙන් කටයුතු කරගෙන එනවා. ඉතින් අද අපි මේ වැඩසටහන කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ අපේ මූලිකම අරමුණක් වෙච්ච මේ තර්කානුකූල මිනිස්සෙක් කොහොමද බිහි වෙන්නේ, තර්කානුකූලව හිතන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක ෆිලොසොෆිකලි බලන්න. ඉතින් ඒ වෙනුවෙන් මට මුලින්ම මතක් වුණු කෙනා තමයි යුදි, අපේ ඉතාමත් හොඳ යාළුවෙක් සහ එයා මේ වෙලාවේ Student for Liberty regional coordinator විදියට වැඩ කරනවා. ඉතින් Student for Liberty කියන්නේ මේ liberal values වෙනුවෙන් ලොකු වැඩ කොටසක් කරන එයාලගේ පදනම විදියට ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිවිසම් සහ රීසන් අරගෙන කටයුතු කරන මම හිතන්නේ ෆිලොසොෆිකලි ගොඩක් මේගොල්ලෝ අප්ඩේට් වෙනවා. එයාලා නිතරම මේ ගැන කියවනවා. ඒ ගැන හොඳ රීඩින් එකක් තියෙන කණ්ඩායමක් සහ අන්තර්ජාතික වශයෙන් ක්‍රියාත්මක වන සංවිධානයක්. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මම හිතුවා යුදිව සම්බන්ධ කරගෙන අපි මේ ගැන කතා කරමු කියලා. ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ මින් එහාට මේ වැඩසටහන ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂාවෙන් තමයි යන්නේ. නමුත් කිසිම ගැටලුවක් නැහැ. අදහස් ප්‍රකාශ කිරීමේදී අදහස් බෙදා හදා ගන්නකොට Tamanට පහසු භාෂාවකින් කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. දෙබලෙන් අවශ්‍ය නම් දෙබලෙන් කතා කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. මම හිතන්නේ යුදීට ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් උත්තර දෙන්න පුළුවන් නිසා සිංහලෙන් අවශ්‍ය කෙනෙක් සිංහලෙන් කතා කරන්න. ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කිසිම අපහසුාවක් හිතන්න බෑ. මොකද මේ ලැන්ග්වේජ් බැරියර් එකත් අපිට තියෙන ලොකු අභියෝගයක්. අපේ රටේ වැඩක් කරද්දී අපි සෙමින එකක් කරද්දී සෙෂන් එකක් කරද්දී ඉතින් අද සෙෂන් එකේදී ගැටලුව වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ නිසා කැමති භාෂාවකින් අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් කරගෙන කතා කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. හරි, එහෙනම් අපි වැඩේ පටන් ගමු. යුදි, බොහොම ස්තුතියි අද අපේ ආරාධනාව පිළි අරගෙන ඉතාමත් ටයිට් ෂෙඩියුල් එකක් තියන් තමයි යුදි ආවේ. ඉතින් බොහොම ස්තුතියි කියලා ඔයාව ආදරයෙන් පිළිගන්නවා වැඩසටහන මින් එහාට පවත්වාගෙන යන්න.
Hi, thanks, Namini. So again, just to highlight the point that language shouldn't be a barrier here. So again, in any language, what you prefer, you can ask any questions anytime. So just to start with, I'm going to give a brief of what we are going to do here. So it's going to be in 4 parts. So first, it's going to be about what is knowledge. Second, it's going to be about rationality. And third, it's about the basic understanding of objectivism, the core value or the core principle of liberalism. And to end with, we'll kind of touch upon the core values of liberalism as well. So again, four groups. So I'll go one by one. So it's kind of, I aligned the whole slides kind of to make sense, each topics. So again, without further ado, I'll share my screen. Let me know if you guys can't see my screen as such. Is it fine now? I mean, is it visible or?
It is visible, Judy.
Oh, great. Okay. So first to start with, I'll try to end my presentation within 20 to 30 minutes so that we can have the whole discussion later on. So again, what is knowledge? So knowledge again, Danuma. So what that means to people, again, still so far in philosophical sense, knowledge is something that always debatable. And again, being philosophy again, it's always you argue about stuff. So you don't find a definite definition for knowledge. So even the definition of knowledge has been changing over the time. So here, all my presentations and all the data I'm gonna present here, it's not my own. I'm not a philosopher or else I'm not even academic acad guy to give my own opinion on this. So it's gonna be a reflection of the greatest thinkers and the greatest writers. So I'll be mentioning their names as well for your reference. If you need any further reference or any further readings or something as such, just try to contact me through Namini. I can give you guys the sources for that. So first of all, the first topic, the main topic, knowledge. What do you mean? What do we mean by knowledge? Or what when we say knowledge or knowing something? What that is mean? What's the meaning of it? So to start with, again, a greatest philosopher from 1950s, Karl Popper. From again, the book is called Conjectures and Refutations, wrote in 1963. So Karl Popper kind of gives an idea on what is knowledge and what is not knowledge, or what is science or what is not science. So before this, again, in philosophy, there weren't a definite definition. What is science? It's like what you believe to be, or the facts that if you can prove it, it's considered to be science. So Karl Popper is the one who kind of explained, saying you can't have science or define something as knowledge without having a definition for that. So here these are just bullet points. I'm going to explain it thoroughly all out. So if you are missing out, or if you can't understand anything in between, please let me know. I'll elaborate on that. So the main argument in Karl Popper's book is about two scientists. So one, Albert Einstein, I'm sure everyone will know him, the guy who invented or theorized relativity. And the second one, Sigmund Freud. So Freud is a psychologist, or some people still refer him to as father of psychology. So he's the guy who first termed the coin psychology and considered psychology as a science. So these two thinkers or scientists had their own definitions or own knowledge in that sense. So Albert Einstein, being a physicist, he has theories. So theories which can prove, okay, relativity is real, and we can, by practically we can make it E equal to MC squared. That's its a famous theory, that equation. So that can be proved in reality for Einstein. For Sigmund Freud, a psychologist, he had his own way of understanding people. He is the one who termed the coin ego, superego, both terms which still used in some sciences, but again, it's found to be again, it's still far, it's not backed up with proofs, I would say. And again, Sigmund Freud's terms and science on that note. So Sigmund Freud, again, being a psychologist, he kind of tried to understand human brains through the theories that he builds. Like for a simple fact that he kind of predicts that a man being a bad guy, or even to the extent of being a psycho killer, it can be from his theory, it can be derived from his childhood. Again, in the childhood, if he had a bad childhood, that may affect him in the future to the level that he can be even a psycho killer or even some other. So if you fail in something and if you are mentally retarded, it can be traced back for Sigmund Freud, the psychologist, to his childhood, his or her childhood. For Albert Einstein, his theories, it's physical, as in it's physical science. As you know, it's physics, it's always about physics. So his theories predicts how light moves and what happens when light moves with the gravity and mass. So with both, Karl Popper says Albert Einstein's theory is considered to be knowledge or science because it predicts the future as well as it cannot be falsified or uh, cannot be so reinterpreted or understood differently in different times. So equal to mc squared, or even a simple definition, or even in maths. So 2 plus 2 being 4. 2 plus 2 being 4 is always going to be true throughout the time. It can't be changed. So that's what Karl Popper considered to be knowledge. So in the case of Sigmund Freud, his philosophy or his science, psychology, when he built it, it didn't make much sense because we can predict, okay, this childhood, or the technical words that he uses, one who's been hugged less, or if there's no connection with his parents, he turns out to be more of a psycho killer or something as such, or mentally retarded after a point. So he defines that childhood having less hugs even impacts the life that you're gonna have in the future. But when someone asks, okay, he turns out to be uh, fine and he had more acts, but again, it still turned out to be a psycho killer. He still, again, what he does is he goes back to his theory and redefines the theory, saying, okay, probably he must have had too much hugs. So the science or the theory that he prescribes, it changes. So Karl Popper says it can't be done. As in, if we equal to mc squared, or 2 plus 2 into 4, it should be 2 plus 2 into 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 is equals to 4. It can't, you can't just change back because the answer changed. So that's what Freud did all over his career. That's why people still, even in the recent psychology, they don't consider much of his works as medically proved. But in the Albert Einstein ways, it's totally different because we still use relativity theory, and that's what tends to our current expeditions in physics. So these are the two thinkers and scientists that Karl Popper mentions in his book, 1963 book. So again, just to touch on what he says about knowledge, he always says knowledge is provisional because knowledge is something that we can do of what we have now. So back in the days when Galileo predicted globe, Earth is not the center in the center of the solar system. It was a miracle. As in back in the days, even the top scientists believed that Earth is in the middle and sun and moves and everything, even though all the planets goes around the Earth. When Galileo said that, it was revolutionary. But Popper would say the scientists before Galileo Galilei, they aren't wrong in that way because their knowledge was limited to the extent they only know this. So they had the knowledge of saying that Earth is in the center with the proofs that they had or the reasons that they had at that point. So now we know that, okay, since Galileo proved with knowledge or with science that this is not true, now we should leave that knowledge or remove that and update our knowledge with the current updated contemporary proofs or science. So for Karl Popper, knowledge is something always evolving. It's not stagnated, just evolves, and we should have the mind to change our perspectives or our beliefs also with that, which is what lacking, especially in our society, because we know that one is true, but with newly updated science, we should change our mind. So that's what Popper prescribes for a man to have a proper knowledge. You should be able to learn, relearn, and unlearn as well. All your ideologies, all your knowledges, and literally everything. So again, just to highlight one point here, Karl Popper, in the beginning, he was a Marxist, as in he believed in Marxist theory. For people who are not familiar with Marx predicted everything in the society is more or less done by two people or two groups of people. One, the rich, the bourgeoisie; two, the proletariat, the one who are poor or the working class. So he defined everything or literally explained everything in history through these conflicts between two classes: the higher class, the rich one, and the poor one. It's always for Marx the conflict between both two. And he predicted, this is where science part comes in, that after a point there will be a revolution which is going to be bloody, and that's why you see all the communist flags in red color, because it symbolizes the bloodiness or the redness of the revolution. And that's why they got two weapons also in there, because as Marx romanticized in his books, they're gonna uproar and take over the bourgeoisies. And after that, there will be a Marxist society or communism, as we know. So Karl Popper in the beginning believed Marx, what he said was fine or correct, that he predicted the two conflicts of two classes, and that can be explained throughout the history for different sections. Even World War II or in World War III, Marx is still kind of explained World War I and World War II through Marxist theories. Karl Popper, after a point, after when he was writing this book, he changed his mind because Marx predicted that there's going to be a revolution, and technically Marx predicted the revolution to happen within his lifetime itself, as in before 1900s in the UK, but that didn't happen. Then he predicted again within a decade, and he died before that, but again that didn't happen. But the theory still exists. For Karl Popper, if the theory that said, okay, there's going to be a revolution and this is the issue, well, which was scientific back for Karl Popper as well. But when the prediction didn't happen, they changed the equation. Now Marxists started to say, oh, no, there was an issue, as in the poor people didn't understand it, and rich people or the bourgeoisies were manipulative, and they opened the markets and they got international trade, so that the gap kind of moved away. So that repairing or retouching the equations for Karl Popper is not a proper way a science works. So Karl Popper, while writing this book, he totally ignores or criticizes Marxist theory, because for him, Marxism built as a scientific theory, but after a point, his prediction, since his prediction is come true, it should have been removed or replaced, but that didn't happen. They kind of retouched and changed some equations here and there and made it as a theory, which is why it's still an important theory in the international relations as well as domestic politics. So again, what the a small or overall lesson that we get out of Karl Popper is, as mentioned in the end of my slides, like, give it up if it's wrong. So if it's wrong, you should be able to give it up and move on. You shouldn't be stuck with that and changing the theories and building new. So this is Karl Popper's definition of knowledge. From this, so since knowledge is, again, just to recap, knowledge is always evolving, it changes. We should be able to change our minds with that. So considering all this, especially when it comes to social science or politics as such, knowledge is something that you can't even define, because it's always going to change. So what we do, especially in SFL, as well as other liberal organizations, if you've been to their events or anything as such, the whole process of discussion, or even the dialogue that we are having right now, it's kind of considered to be a Socratic discussion. So Socratic discussion is again termed with Socrates, one of the greatest thinker. So it's where you have dialogues, where you share your ideas, and there's no loser or winner here. It's always about knowing what you don't know, and it's about sharing your ideas and find the common truth. So this kind of helps Karl Popper's theory or Karl Popper's philosophy on how we attain knowledge or science. So we should have a platform like just like this to share our ideas. By sharing our ideas, we'll get closer to the truth. So that's always should be happening in the society for society to thrive. So these are the things that you don't see in other societies or other societies, for example, like Marxism or socialism or something as such. Because in those societies, they don't believe in sharing knowledge, because Marxism and socialism, they believe their theories to be absolute truth. So you can't contradict or you can't argue on the theories, because their theories are believed to be perfect, which should make more sense when it's followed rather than criticized. So in liberals or liberalism, it's the idea of having dialogue is what makes it a different ideology compared to others or other philosophies, especially the political philosophies. So again, these two are, this is the gist of what is knowledge, what knowledge means. If you guys have any questions regarding this is the time, or else we can move to rationality. This rationality kind of gives, so now we know what is knowledge, how we are going to learn the knowledge, that part comes in rationality. Do you guys have any questions regarding anything so far? Okay, I hope there aren't any questions on this end. So let me move to the second part. So now we know what is knowledge. And it, again, just to recap, it's evolving. It's always something that can be proved wrong in the future, but we should accept the fact and move on to find the truth eventually. And for what helps that Socratic method of having a discussion, openly having a discussion without having a debate as such. It's not about winning or losing, it's about sharing. Now we come to the meat of our whole discussion is rationality. So before we move into rationality, I just want to highlight another part which kind of gives you a complete picture, and which I feel like which usually when people try to mention rationality misses. So again, this is again another greatest thinker, Plato. So his theory it's called tripartite soul. This kind of gives an aspects to how human behaves. So in his words, he divides into three souls. So Plato says there's one rational soul, there's one emotional soul, and there's one physical soul. So rational soul, again, that's what we are going to discuss after this. This is about how you go by reasoning. How you think, how you behave by reasoning what you are doing. That's rational. Second one is emotional. This is where your emotions comes in. Have you emotionally attached to one, or have you emotionally behave to some incidents? Have you emotionally get involved on some things as such? So this is where you're getting angry, you're getting envy, your ego, everything comes into your emotional part. And the third part, another important part, is physical. Physical is where it's about where you again behave for your physical needs as such. This is where you talk about being hungry and sex drives, everything comes for the physical part, because it's something that you're physically needed. It's not attached to your rational mind or emotional mind. So again, physical soul for Plato, that's the only thing that's common with all animals. This is the emotional and the rational part is what differentiates us humans from other beings, because we are emotional as well as we are rational. We can be rational. So physical, again, as common to all animals, they always go for food and sex, reproduction, and completing or achieving their needs, especially the food. So again, this in this seminar or in this discussion, we are just going to have a talk about rational mind and why thinking rational, or why not thinking emotionally is better, especially when you are trying to make political decisions, or when even in these philosophies that we are going to discuss after this, they believe that being rational is the best way for you to think, not just in political side but in day-to-day life as well. So without further ado, again, the three parts or three behavioral desires of a human is divided into three by Plato. One is rational, one is emotional, one is physical. And rational and emotional is the one that differentiates us from other beings, and physical is common to all animals. So again, another important question here, what is rationality? So here I got this term from the thinker called Steven Pinker. Uh, uh, his books, he always talks, he's a really uh, well known for his theories in rationality as well as his books. So I'll highly recommend reading his books. And there's a recent book for Angels of our Time. So that kind of gives you optimistic view of how world works now. So we are not going to dive into those. So just to give an idea of what Steven Pinker says when what it means by rationality. So rationality for Steven Pinker is the cognitive capacity for an individual to navigate complexities by applying reason, evidence, and problematic thinking and reflective judgment. So we don't have to consider everything here, but in simple words, we can just say it as applying reason or making decisions by applying reasons, nothing else. We are not going to apply emotions. We are not going to apply your physical desires as such. You always think by rational, by reason. So that's the simplest definition of rationality, how to be rational in that sense. So again, even though the definition seems easier, but in real life, it's hard to be rational because you always, whenever you make decisions, you are emotional. Again, we are emotional beings. The emotional part kind of trumps our rationality. So how to get rid of that? How to prioritize your rational mind or way of making a decision by reasons rather than your emotional mind? So technically, there are so many different ways, but I summed it down to two important points here: how to be rational, how to be a rational being. It's by two simply again divided into two categories or two ways that you can do it. One, the Bayesian reasoning. It's again prescribed by Steven Pinker, the author that we saw before for the definition of rationality. So he goes by Bayesian thinking. This is kind of again touch with our Karl Popper's theory, where there's no definite knowledge. It's always updating. So we should be, when we are doing thinking or when we're making decisions, our rational mind also should be able to revise the beliefs with the evidence accordingly. You can't have a stack. That's what again the issue with Marxism, because they stuck with the thinking pattern or the rationality which made sense or which was science for Karl Popper back in 1900s, but it's not anymore. But Marxists and socialists, they still didn't move from that. They are still stuck with it. That's where Karl Popper says it's not a science now. It's kind of turned into a pseudoscience or fake science. So again, the first way is Bayesian reasoning. It's something that you do to yourself, as in you reason by you find rationality by doing it yourself, and you find evidence and you do it by reasoning. So that's something that you do individually. And the second part here, it's institutions. This is where liberals kind of emphasis more than the prior, because institutions makes your lives easier. So again, this is if you want to read about it, it's from the book called Predictable Irrational. Predictably Irrational. It's from the another psychologist called Dan Ariely. So he explains about institutions and how institutions helps us to be more rational. So for example, so if you are going to a doctor, he is giving you medicines, but you don't question that, or you don't argue, or you don't go against that. So you just drink that medicine. So technically, if you're going to be more rational, you should be able to go by the evidence and see whether what he said was fine, what medicines he prescribed, whether it's fine, whether it's something that should be prescribed, if the dosages are fine. So this is a total work for you just to have one medicine. Probably if it's an emergency medicine and as such, probably you'll be dead by the time that you researched and everything and learned everything as such. So this is where Dan really says institutions helps. Institutions the way that you have formed sets of rules and norms that you can rely on, rather than you doing the whole thinking process or rational process. So another example would be traffic lights and traffic rules. So if you again question everything when you're getting into your car and when you're driving out, if you have to think rationally about each and every turn and every move that you are going to make, you are going to be damn slow and you won't be able to move at all, because you don't know what's happening around. You have to have the whole knowledge of who's moving that opposite side and who is coming behind you and something as such, for you to get the whole knowledge and make a decision. So you can't do that. So this is where the institutions like traffic lights or traffic rules comes in. So now you know that everyone here knows that you should drive on left, not on right, or the other way if you're in the US. And if you're turning, you should make a signal that the guy behind you knows. So these are norms and rules which helps you to be more rational and make decisions easier, rather than again going through the whole pattern of thinking from the beginning, from the start itself. So again, to ways to be rational, again, you can use your own mind and do that, or you can rely on institutions. And again, these institutions won't be helping you, especially when it comes to political decisions or economical decisions as such. It may help you, but it won't be able to provide you the necessary needs. So again, just to touch on rationality, rationality means applying reasons and evidence. To do that, either you can do it or you can rely on institutions that the institutions that makes your your way of rationality easier. So you can do both ways, but you should be able to choose what you are going to rely on depending on the situation or the decision that you are going to make. So again, this is the second topic, rationality. To recap, we know what knowledge is. Now we know how we are going to attain knowledge, or we are going to create knowledge. So by rational, by reasoning, by evidence. Now we got both. Now we kind of want to turn towards what we can make out of it. As in, you know that something is a fact or something is a knowledge, but now you know that you can make a decision rationally. But how to go through that and how to have it as a process, this is where objectivism as a philosophy comes in. So for people who doesn't know, who it's the first time that we are hearing about objectivism, objectivism is a philosophy coined by a philosopher called Ayn Rand. Again, she's a female and she's one of, I think she's in the top 10 philosophers ever. And that she's the only female also in that sense. So I'm not going to explain much on her or her history. So I'm just going to dive into what objectivism means. Objectivism is a philosophy again. It's a fundamental, it's more like a fundamental philosophy, or in Ayn Rand's term, how she described it, it's like it gives you a blueprint on how to live in this world. So for her, she kind of prescribes 4 essence or 4 core values of objectivism. So for her, if you can understand these 4 values, you should be able to survive or thrive. For her, this is the best way for a single human or individual to thrive in this society. So these are the 4 values. Again, metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, which means self-interest for her, and politics, which is capitalism. So metaphysics, just to explain everything, we are not going to dive much into objectivism as a philosophy. I'm just going to touch on the basics. If you want more in-depth discussion, we can have it later or in another session. So first, metaphysics, which means for Ayn Rand or the objectivist, everything external or the reality that you live in is objective. As in, this is a pen. Even if you believe it, if it's not a pen or not, it's still a pen. You can't change the fact that this is a pen. So accepting what around you, or this being a cup, is something that you, so just because I don't believe it to be a cup, I can even believe it to be a table. But for Ayn Rand, that can't be done. For Ayn Rand, everything outside you or anything in reality is objective, or it's not subjective. You can't change the definitions on your will. But how you understand it, that's where a knowledge or rationality comes in. So I know this is a cup. This is made out of, it's easier to go with the pen. Okay, this is a metal pen, but this is a metal. I can just define this as a metal because I can only see metal. But by defining it as a pen, this makes more sense for me as well as you. So now I know I can write through this pen and it benefits more. But in the other side, if I just consider this to be a metal, there's no use for us, or we can't utilize to the maximum. So it's being a pen, and we both of us are considering to be a pen. It makes more sense for both of us, and it helps both of us to have maximum benefits from this product or from this object. So likewise, in objective reality, everything is the reality is objective for Ayn Rand. So how you know, or how you realize, okay, this is a pen and this is a cup, is by having reasons, rationality. This is where she embedded or includes rationality and how it's going to help you as an individual, as a human, to understand the world. So again, objectivism first value is metaphysics, that objective reality is objective. It's not subjective. You can't define what you want. It's already there, and you should be able to understand it. How you understand it is by rationality or by reasons. You reason this by, okay, this is a metal. I probably should be able to, melt it back and create something else. But if I believe to be a pen, I can write, more stuff. I can do stuff. So now I should decide what I'm going to do with it. That's for your rational mind to do it. So, but you can't get rid of the fact that this is a pen or this is a metal. This is physical and that is outside your control. But what you do with it, that's your control. That means that decision that you make is by being rational. The third part is self-interest. This is one of the controversial points, especially for Ayn Rand, an objectivist, because she believes that all the decisions that you make, it should only consider your individual moral happiness, or your the highest moral purpose for a human being is to find his own happiness or thrive to his happiness. To do what you like is should be your first value, or it should trump literally everything or all the morals. And this helps you again the before step, or the rationalizing part. So if I am a welder, if I'm a one who does metal, or if I'm the one who welds metal and do maybe a welding job or something as such, or maybe I can be something to do with metal as such, that in this occurrence, what will happen here is, as an individual, as a self-interested man, for me, this pen works more if it's a pen. If I use it as a pen, I can write stuff because I learn, I'm still a student. But for another man, or if I'm being a welder, for me, this works more as a metal. So considering the fact objective reality is objective, and you find objects, you find you understand reality, understand environment outside you, whatever is outside you, by reasoning. Reasoning, how do you reason what is, so this can be defined as a metal as well as a pen. But for me, it's better for me to define it as a pen because it helps me personally. Probably if it's a welder, if it's someone else who's interested in metals or something as such, for him it will worth more if he consider this as just a metal. So whatever that works for you, whatever that helps you to attain your own happiness, you should decide that, and you should always go with that. That's what Ayn Rand says, especially on how you make decisions. And the third part, this is where the political part comes in for Ayn Rand. How you communicate with others, or how you see politics as such. For her, politics or even economics, any interactions outside you should be capitalism. She simply defines it as capitalism, but it's another way to understand it's like it should be free, or should be a free market mechanism where you should be able to trade or talk or share anything with each other without any power or any authority overarching you. So that's the only part for Ayn Rand that kind of describes how the politics should be. But other three aspects, the first three aspects, helps an individual to thrive in his own life. So that's why Ayn Rand says objectivism is the best philosophy for you to thrive in this world, especially in this capitalist world. So those are the 4 points from objectivism. And again, from here, she builds up a lot of stuff and a lot of values after this, but we are not going to touch that in this session, but we can discuss it if you want later on. So to summarize everything that I mentioned here, for the 4 parts that or 4 essence of objectivism in one quote, this is from the book of Atlas Shrugged. Again, Ayn Rand's book, again, one of the famous book, and I think that's it's the famous book in 20th century ever, as in it's one of the best-selling books. Even though she's dead and gone, it's still one of the best-selling books or best-selling fiction book in that category. So the book is called Atlas Shrugged, and there's a character called John Galt. If you read the book, you'll get to know how the character it's been built in the whole story. So this then, and at the end there's a speech by this character. And again, if you just go to YouTube or even in Google, if you search for John Galt's speech, it's still there because one of the influential fictional speech, I would say, of influential. It's been moved into ACADS as a document, but influential, I would say, a speech or a narrative that kind of makes more sense of objectivism. So again, just to summarize, this is a fictional character called John Galt from Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. So this is how he ends his speech after I think it's about, I think the speech in YouTube goes for around 20 minutes because it's a really big speech. But to summarize, he ends it with, I swear by my life. Again, let me read it. I swear by my life and my love of it that I will never live for the sake of another man, nor ask another man to live for mine. So this is the gist of objectivism. So for objectivism, the first three values again, it kind of gives you a way to live in your own way. And the fourth one gives you a way to how to interact with others, to comply to this code. As in, you live for you, and you don't expect others to live for you as well. So you can't exploit others for your own sake. You respect the fact that they are also individuals, and you do what you want to do in your life by accepting the fact that they are also going to do what they want in their lives and respecting that. So we are not going to exploit each other in any way. So it kind of summarizes, and one of my favorite quotes as well, the whole philosophy of objectivism in few words. So with that, again, objectivism is coined by Ayn Rand again, but she's from 1950s, and the philosophy kind of came into fully fledged philosophy after 1980s. But liberalism, as you all know, it's been there for centuries. So again, liberalism is a spectrum, of course. There are different building blocks that you can define liberalism with. Objectivism is one of the philosophy that explains liberalism, but it's not absolute. So there are liberals who still criticize Ayn Rand and objectivism as well. But objectivism, in some aspects, gives you a more elaborated perspective on how you can look at liberalism. So all these values that comes with liberalism can be tracked down or can be explained through Ayn Rand's objectivism as well. So that's why people believe objectivism to be something, the building or the foundation of liberalism. So again, before I move into liberal values, again, this is our last session here. I just want to highlight what's the difference between fact and a value. So we started with knowledge, and we know what is knowledge now, and we know how we are going to gain knowledge by being rational. And in objectivist lens, how we are going to see, how we are going to make the decision to be a liberal is by thriving or prioritizing your own happiness and your own life before everything. So that's how you make that decision. But now you know there's a fact and there are values. Those two, both are different stuff. So how we are going to correlate these. So again, this is a simple definition of what fact and value is. So fact literally means what it is, as in just fact. So again, this is being a pen or this is being a metal. Both are facts. This is a metal and this is as well as a pen. But value is what defines what I'm going to go with. Whether I'm going to consider this to be just a metal or I'm going to consider this to be a pen. That's where the value comes in. So again, for Ayn Rand, the value should be always your personal happiness. If this is going to help you and help me thrive as a pen, I'm going to choose that. It's going to be the other way for the one, or it can be even just a poking machine, or it can be just be something that you put to the plugs and use your socket or something as such. So it depends on how you use it, and the value comes for you personally. So liberals, to be a liberal gives, there are facts can't be changed again. Values, the liberal values gives you a direction on how you can look at world. So there are facts. So just to give some facts. So from capitalism, from 1900s to now, there are people who got out of poverty. So there are people there are countries which moved from developing to developed. So there are GDP growth in the economical side, as well as there's more democracies now. So these are facts. You can't change that. So you know that there were less than 10 democracies before World War I, and there's more than 100 democracies right now. So that's a fact. But value comes in, especially in liberals, on how you take that, how you measure that fact, or how you consider that fact. So for Marx, the same fact means that only rich got richer. So now this is why we are seeing, really big billionaires, or at this probably as Marx put it, there will be trillionaires as well, because though they cover, or they get the biggest pie or biggest size of the pie, so they cover a lot and they are richer. So they take the same fact and they value it differently. Liberals, they take the same fact and they value it differently, because for them there are more people out of poverty. So there are people who can still eat 3 times a day, which wasn't the case 100 years ago. So the same fact which is valued differently by different people. So liberals, these are the core values of liberalism. Again, we are not going to go much into this. As Namini said, LYM subscribes to 8, sorry. Here, again, there are more than this. I'm just giving you a basic and the important ones here. And there are more, so in Students for Liberty, we believe in 10 core liberal values. I think LYM goes with 8. And there are other organizations which just go with 6 as such. So it differs, but the core values, it's something that more like a ruler that you can use to measure and value things. So the core value here for liberalism, for example, for the top 5 values, I would say, or the important ones. First is individual liberty. It always comes in first, for even for objectivism, even for liberalism, or any type of liberalism in that case. So individual liberties, you always should measure something, whether it's going to help you in your own liberty or own freedom. So that's how you make decisions. That's how you make political decisions, even economic decisions, even day-to-day life decisions. You should make decisions that's going to help you thrive in your individual freedom. It shouldn't be the other ways, or the vice versa. It shouldn't go against your freedom, or it shouldn't stagnate your freedom as such. So you should always make decisions that's going to help you in your individual freedom. So the second value, rule of law. This is where the government comes in. This is where the liberals believe the government should be and government should stop. The governments only be there to implement this rule of law. Again, just like what we had the institutions. That's the government is an institution. That just like Diana really said, that institution help you get out of the typical you being too rational or deciding everything from day-to-day life. So traffic rules, even if you are building a business permit or something as such. So these rules and regulations that put by government, or again, so the typical law, the rule of law. So murdering someone is wrong, or robbing is wrong, rape. So those kind of things is illegal by the government, by the rule, because that helps everyone to thrive in their best way. So those things should be considered, or put in this value of rule of law, or this is the only place where the government should be, and government is there to protect this, or the value, or the law for you, so that you can't do that without an interference of a superpower like government. Again, this is again debated. There are, again, as I told, liberalism is a spectrum. There are people who go to the extreme of saying that there shouldn't be a government. Those are termed, they're anarchist, but typical liberals, they don't go to that extreme. So, but just to highlight, there are people to go to that extremes here. And tolerance and diversity, this is where democracy comes in for liberal values, because we always tolerate the diversity, that tolerate the answers. And the typical example of democracy is it's by ruling of the majority. So when majority rules, the minority should have the tolerance to accept the fact that that it should be bent by democratic process. So this is where the tolerance comes in, and this is where tolerance in the day-to-day interaction for us comes in. So the things that I've said here, there may be some things that you don't agree with, but in liberal values or liberals, we accept the fact, we tolerate the fact that we don't accept everything that I say or you say, but that won't interfere in our interactions. It should you should be able to be able to tolerate that and go beyond and have a discussion. And being rational, if you both are rational, if you then probably will end up in the same position eventually, with the ability of having rational decision making. So again, limited government. I'm not going to spend much on that. The liberals wanted government and even and ran the same government to not interfere in your economic side. They wanted government just to be in your politics and rule of law. And to end with capitalism, liberals believes in free market. And again, there are again, as in the spectrum, there are different opinions, and then there are some needed a minimal government interference for help to stop monopolies of coming. But again, it's arguable, and this is where we have these dialogues and discussions in the liberal platforms for us to find a ideal situation which works for. It differs with the countries as well, different cultures and different countries, so it changes with that. But where we find where the government should be in the economics side of it, or in the sphere of it, it changes with time as well as the place. So with that, this is the whole whole thing from me. Again, the four major points or topics that we touched here: knowledge, rationality, so how you gain knowledge or we assess knowledge. Objectivism it's a philosophy from Ayn Rand. She gives you how do you make the decision of what to go with. Again, the example of a pen being a metal and a pen. And liberalism gives you a ruler or the measurement tool for you to measure the facts and get what you want. And they believe that if you go by these things, it will help you thrive as an individual in a society. So yeah, that's it from me. Is there any questions or any doubts on anything that we discussed? Or if you want to put your values as well, this is the time. Again, as liberals, we believe having an open dialogue. So again, just to mention from the beginning part, language shouldn't be a barrier here in any language, in Sinhala or Tamil. You can ask me, and we can have a discussion here and discuss further on this. Back to you, Namini.
Thank you very much, Yudi, for the very insightful presentation. And I think that everyone has captured something about liberalism and, rationalism, objectivism, and about knowledge. I think it's very nice of you for bringing up the values and the difference between facts and values, and then how you came to describing values, liberal values. So I think it's really insightful, starting from knowledge to liberal values. So if anyone has any questions, this is the time that you can ask them. And if you want to give your opinions, ideas, since we really appreciate the ideas, and liberalism is all about ideas, so you can share your views, opinions, ideas, anything. This is the time and this is the platform. Feel free to express yourselves, please. So anyone? No one? So this session was, originally required by Kavisha. So Kavisha is there. So Kavisha මොනා හරි කියන්න තියනවද? දැන් Kavisha අලුතෙන් එකතු වුණේ කිව්වා යාට liberalism ගැන ලොකු අවබෝධයක් නැහැ කියලා. ඉතින් යුදී ඇත්තටම මේ අපේ liberal thinkers ලා most celebrated liberal thinkers ලගෙන් තමයි කරුණු අරන් අද ඉදිරිපත් කරේ කාල් පොපර් ඊට පස්සේ ප්ලේටෝ සොක්‍රටිස් තව ගොඩක් දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. ඉතින් ඊට අමතරව විශේෂයෙන්ම අයන් රෑන්ඩ්ව ගත්ත ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිවිසම් ගැන කතා කරපු නිසා ඉතින් ඔයාලට මොනවා හරි අදහසක් තියෙනවද ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න? නැත්නම් මොනවා හරි ඔයාලට තව දැනගන්න දෙයක් තියෙනවද විශේෂයෙන්ම ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිවිසම් එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ රීසන් ගැන? විශේෂයෙන්ම අද අපි කතා කරපු දේ ගොඩක්ම තව තැනකට ගියොත් අපි බැලුවේ මේ ලිබරල් වාදයේත් ඇත්තටම මූලිකම හරය ලිබර්ටි කියන දෙයට අමතරව මම හිතන්නේ මේ ඉන්ඩිවිජුවලිසම් කියන එක මට නම් හේතුව මොකද ඉන්ඩිවිජුවලිසම් කියන එක ගොඩ දෙනෙක් හරි වැරදි විදියට අර්ථකථනය කරනවා හේතුව තමයි මේක හරීම සෙල්ෆිෂ් අයිඩියොලොජි එකක් ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් ගැන විතරක් ફોකස් කරන අයිඩියොලොජි එකක් කියලා. නමුත් ඉන්ඩිවිජුවලිසම් කියන්නේ මේ තනි පුද්ගලයෙක් ගැන විතරක් හිතලා කතා කරන දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. අපි මේ සොසයිටි එකේ සෙන්ට් එක නැත්තම් මේ හැම කතාවකම සෙන්ට් එක කියලා පිළිගන්න ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල්. ඒ කියන්නේ මම කියන කෙනා වෙනුවෙන් තමයි අපි මේ හැමදේම කරන්නේ කියන එක. ඉතින් මම තමයි අනිත් පැත්තට ඔබ ඉන්නේ ඔබ වැදගත් කියන තැනනේ. ඒතර වෙන වෙනම ගත්තොත් අපි අපිට හොඳ දෙයක් හදාගන්න තමයි මේ කැපකිරීම කරන්නේ. හැබැයි මේ ඉන්ඩිවිජුවලිසම් ඇතුලේ තව ගොඩාක් කරුණු කාරණා තියෙනවා අපිට කරන්න තියෙන අපි ලෝකයේ දකින විදිහ අපි ලෝකයට දෙන්න තියෙන දේවල් ගැන. ඉතින් ඒක වෙනමම ටොපික් එකක්. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම කියනවා නම් අර අපි සොසයිටි එකට වඩා නැත්තම් වෙන සමාජයේ ගෲප්ස් වලට වඩා අපි ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල්ව ඉස්සරහට දානවා හැම වෙලේම. ඒ කියන්නේ ගෲප් එකකට වඩා අපිට වටින්නේ ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල්ව. ඒක තමයි ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ ලිබරලිසම් වල හරය. මේක වැරදියට වටහාගෙන අර්ථ නිරූපණය කරන නිසා තමයි මම ඒක කියන්න උත්සාහ කරේ. chat box එකට ප්‍රශ්න කීපයක් දාලා තියෙනවා. එකක් තමයි මොනවද තව resources මේව ගැන ඉගෙන ගන්න කියලා. ඉතින් යුදීට ඕනනම් කියන්න පුළුවන් මොනවද resources කියලා මටත් කියන්න පුළුවන් මම අපි refer කරන resources මොනවද කියලා. යුදී කියන්න මේ resources මමත් refer කරන resources කියලා.
Yeah, so it depends on where you're going to start though. So where knowledge starts is a totally different platform I took it from. Rationality and objectivism, I think Namini, I'll send everything to you. You can share with the participants later, right? I'll send the links. And just to touch on with what Namini said, that an issue with individualism and collectivism. So for liberals, they always believe this. So again, the misconception here, that's same with Ayn Rand as well as liberals, is they say they are selfish. They say that they are selfish, as in liberals are too selfish. They always consider about themselves, but that's not the case. So it's the other way around. So Ayn Rand says, so we here, so we are here because the motive or the thing that we value is the same. So individually, I need something valuable or something I'm expecting from this community. So in each and everyone individually expecting something, but since that expectation we are here as a community. So that's what liberals believe in, as in you join or you put yourself in front or come as a community because you all thrive for one. So you can be in different communities as well. So I'm here to share my knowledge and gain knowledge from you guys. So you can be in a cricket society or something as such, or in a cricket club. That's something that you believe in, and everyone in your team, they believe in something that together. So that's where the collectivism comes in. So to quote it, in liberals say individual is the minority. So you can't go beyond. It's like just me. So it's an individual is the building box of literally all the society. So we come together here just like this because we value something common that can change, that can evolve. That's totally fine. But we are here for a cause or something that we believe in right now. If we achieve it, we probably change it. If we couldn't achieve it, then probably we change our strategies and move on. So that's again just to highlight on the misconception here that we are selfish, but in liberal way, again, just to touch on to be rational, the part that Dan Ariely says, there are two ways to do that. You can't. So one way is to you be individually rational. That's technically hard. So I can say this stuff, but when you think about yourself, emotions, desires, they just all automatically comes with you. So you can't differentiate. You can't be more rational because always the emotion part comes in. Whenever we make a decisions, whenever we are buying stuff, so always our emotions involves. So how to get out of that is hard. That's where the community comes in. So technically, to give an example, if I ask for an advice, or if I ask an advice for, if I do something on myself and asking advice from someone else, just again, if I'm asking something from Namini for me to advise now, so let's say I'm dating someone, if I'm asking myself, I can't get out of that emotional pattern or my emotions if I'm making that decision. If I go to third party, like just like Namini or someone who doesn't know anything, probably they'll give the best answer or best solution to them, because they are not emotionally involved. They are more rational in that end. So to be rational itself, you need more people. So you can't be individually rational. It's hard to be individually rational, but eventually you'll get that. That's the whole point, but you can't do that. So that's where Dan Ariely and other psychologists emphasize on institutions. Yeah, you can go to, LYM or some other institutions as such, or even SFL, and you can, you can make more precise or rational decisions with the help of the others. So to be rational itself, you need people. So the collectivism, it's again the how liberals define collectivism is different. It's like they are against collectivism as such. So just wanted to highlight that part. Namini, again to you.
And also, Yudhi, I would like to press the fact that according to John Gray, right, the individualism is, it is not just individualistic approach, right? So this individualism, it has four characteristics according to John Gray. So it is individualist, egalitarian, and universalist and meliorist. So with all four these characteristics, it makes this whole individualism. So I believe this individualist is only one characteristics of this value individualism. So we should not forget the fact that individualism is not individualist. It's different, totally different. So we have to keep that in our mind also.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
So any questions? Also not questions, or you all can engage. I mean, like, there are no answers, questions. You can, and yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to tell you that there is a question on the chat for Yudhi.
Yeah, okay. So yeah.
Yeah, I just also wanted to add, like, it does, like, liberalism, libertarianism, we always talk about like individual freedom and like freedom of speech and everything, but also why there are laws and why the government involvement in like a country like ours exists is also something we might need to consider, because ultimately anything of extreme is too bad. So either, like, even if you're a very religious person and if you go to the very extremes, it's too bad. So likewise, I think this question draws from also this recent problem that was raised by this stand-up comedian as well. I believe that according to the Constitution, we cannot, anyone cannot speak or harm or talk anything that would harm someone else. So basically, like, even liberalism said, although harm is a very subjective word, and like it's someone could say like it's a harm, but whereas someone else would say it's just a normal thing. But like but in our constitution, in the Sri Lankan constitution, we have that we cannot discriminate or say anything harmful towards our religions as well, and therefore, like, on that basis, I would still say, like, there has to be a respect for other people also, even if it's comedy or even if it's anything at all. Even when you have a conversation, that is why you have proper conversations, and try to be respectful towards each other, towards other ethnicities, towards other religions, and anything, right? It's a person needs to be respected, and I think that needs to still be upheld, even though we even though we express and like talk about libertarianism as well. It's like how we say, like, තමන්ගේ නිදහස නැති තමන්ගේ නිදහස නැති වෙන අනිත් එක්කෙනාගේ නහයෙන් ළඟින් වගේ කියලා. I don't know like the exact phrase, but that is something we all need to consider and like make sure that we don't harm anyone else or hurt anyone else or be disrespectful. So that's something I wanted to add on to that question.
Yeah, thanks, Nuri, on that. Yeah, totally agreed on one aspect of it, but again, I think this is kind of again one of the gray areas or something that again we can have a total discussion just on that, because let's say that we 24 people are here, so 23 are saying one is right, and one is saying just one, or just let it be me. I am going against. I am saying no for that. So in liberals' view, or in a libertarian society, even though that you guys decided 23 of you all decided something to be correct or something to be the correct one, but that shouldn't stop me from saying what I believe and what I believe to be true or truth. So I should be able to express that. That's where the tolerance part comes in liberal values. I should be able to express myself regardless of what majority believes. So that should be open. So it's not about I am going against you or me being hurtful, but I should say what I believe in, what I believe, even though it goes against all of you. But what liberals believe is by having an open discussion just like this, a human should always try to be rational and gain his knowledge by being rational. So if you 24 of you all are correct, eventually I'll end up with you. But sometimes what I said may be correct, but I should be able to convince you or express myself till you 23 of you are coming back or revert back to the truth that makes more sense rationally. That's exactly what happens when Galileo Galilei said that this Earth is not in the middle of the solar system. So literally everyone except him, the whole Greece, the whole European society believed Earth to be in the center. But what he said was wrong. So literally he could have been killed. And there are philosophers who killed for saying those kind of things. But now he kind of expressed himself. But now it got us near to the truth. That helped us go to the truth. As long as it's helping us, there shouldn't be a barrier or something to stop us from saying whatever in your mind, even if it's totally against the community, totally against the majority. Even if you are just one person, you should be able to express it. But whether it's going to be hurtful or not, whether the opinion that I've said, whether should have been termed in a way that it's not hurtful, again, it's a totally different way or different thing to argue on. I'm not going to say anything on that end. But whether it's hurtful or not, my opinions should be expressed because we don't know what is truth. And again, as Karl Popper said, knowledge is an evolving thing. So having open discussions and opening and talking to the extremes or talking in the other side is what gives us
also
knowledge.
Just to add something, Yudi. Sorry, just to add some. This again connects us to the individualism. Now we are talking about that individual, right? 1 against 23, right? 1 against hundreds, right? So that his opinion is valuable, is as same as the ideas of all that 24 or hundreds of people. So this again connects to individualism and also the tolerance. The whole expression of tolerance is, pursue, how you can, make someone believe what you believe in a very peaceful manner. That is tolerance and peace. That is how all these values are interconnected to each other, right? As the same now, since you get that Karl Popper's, so what he also mentioned in his books and work, that these scientific theories, they possess the potential falsifier, right? Because what you believe today can be found and discovered to be false tomorrow. So we have to admit that fact. So today we get these are the rights of people and this is how you should behave. These are the things that these are the lines and boundaries like that. But all these things can be found false and and these things can be different tomorrow. So we have to accept the process of evolution of everything and we have to be open-minded always. And there are some points in our lives and also regarding social scenarios, there are points that we should not engage in, all the social, all that debates and arguments. Sometimes we have to focus on what is really important and what is really impactful, right? Sometimes some hypes are, they are created hypes, that there can be things which really, that kind of things. Politically speaking, there can be. So what I believe is when it comes to this rationalism and reason and all these things, that we have to prioritize what we really need to focus on. That also comes as a part of this reason and rationalism. So yes, Yudi, that is how I get these things, current things, political things.
Yeah, totally agreed. Yeah. So again, this is not a session that I'm doing on liberalism. So, but just to highlight, so liberals believe, so again, I don't have the graph with me right now. So in liberals, the progress is not a straight line. You can't just, move, develop, and, go there. So liberals believe there will be blips. As in, if you go there, and probably that's where there will be false rationalization, and we believe on something and we go towards that, and probably will end up more like a bubble. So there will be blips. So you grow for a bit and there will be a blip, but you grow again a bit more than what you were before, and again there will be a blip and you grow again, but the overall growth will be positive. That's what liberals believe in. So you can be wrong sometimes. So again, that's what happens with our history. So we believed earth to be flat, then someone said but we had growth even with that, but someone said differently and we evolved to different thing. Then there will be something that that didn't make this again. So even before World War, there weren't a theory for inflation as such. Inflation, economics sector got embedded with economics later on, after 900s or in the beginning 900s. So again, so we'll have a blip, we will learn from that, but we'll move even better. So our learning curve, it's always been a blip, but eventually the overall growth is positive. So that's what happens. So we can be wrong now, probably. Just like I said, I can be 23 of y'all can be wrong, probably I can be right, but eventually we'll get there and we'll move on from that. So it takes time. So always takes time, but the growth is not straight line. There can be blips and downturns, but eventually the overall growth will be a positive sum. That's what liberal always believes in. Back to you, Namini.
Yeah, thank you, Yudi. I think since no one is talking and giving their opinions, but
Namini.
Oh, Charit, kya
මේ දැන් ගොඩක් කලාට දැන් මේ ලිබරල්මන්ට ඇතුළේ දැන් ගොඩක් ලිබරල් ගැන කතා කරද්දී යන ලිස්ම කියන්නේ බාහිර පාර්ශවය කියනවා ලිබරල් කණ්ඩායම අර්මාතගාමී කියන කාරණාවක් කියනවා කියන අපි කියනවනේ සහයෙන් පොඩි කතාබතාවකුත් කියන්නේ කතාවකුත් තියෙනවා ඉතින් හැබැයි මම කියන්නේ මිනිස්සෙක් විදිහට මං ගැන මම බලපුවම මම ආත්මාර්ථකමී තමයි. ඒ කියන්නේ යම් තාක් දුර කියන්නේ කොහොම හරි හැබැයි මං කියන්නේ ආත්මාර්ථකාමී කියලා කියන්නේ මං ගැන විතරක් කියන්නේ හිතනවා කියන එකට නම් ඒක ආත්මකම නෙමෙයි කියලා මං හිතන්නේ. ඒක ඇත්තට කියන්නේ අර මේ පටු මානසිකත්වයක් වෙන්න ඕන. මොකද මට තනියම මට ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕන මට මේ තනියම ජීවත් වෙන්න බෑනේ. එතකොට තව කෙනෙක් මට ඕනමයි. මූලික අවස්ථා සපුරා ගැනීම ඉඳලා මට කාවාරි ඕන. ඉතින් මට කාවාරි ඕන නිසා මං කියන වාස්තය කරනවා නම් ඉතින් මං හිතනවා මට උදව්වක් ඕන නිසා මං කාට උදව්වක් කරනවා. ඒතකොට හැම විට මං ගැන හිතලානේ මං දෙයක් කරන්නේ. ඒතකොට එතන ආත්මකාමී නැහැ කියලා අපිට කියන්න බෑ. මං කියන්නේ දැන් ඉතින් හැබැයි කියන්නේ ඒතකොට හැමෝම සමාජයක් ඇතුළතදී ඒතකොට අපි කියන්නේ මේක සම්මාන තිබි හදාගෙන ඉන්නේ මේ අපි සාමූහික ජීවත් වෙනෙත් අපිට තාද මේ තනින්දවල කියන්නේ මේ කරගන්න බැරි හින්දානේ. එතකොට මේ අර මේ මහ ලොකුවට සලකා බලන කාරණාවක් නෙමෙයි ආත්මගාමීද නැද්ද කියන එක. ඒතකොට පරාර්ථකාමී කියලා ගත්තට පස්සේ කියන්නේ ඒ මනුස්සයව කියන්නේ පර කියන්නේ පිට කෙනා කියන එක නේ. එතකොට අර සම්බන්ධයක් නැහැ වෙනවා. ආත්මාර්ථකාමී ඇතුලේ පොඩි මේ ලව් එකකුත් තියෙනවා. මේ මම පොඩ්ඩක් අර මේ කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය කියන්නේ පොඩ්ඩක් හැමෝම දැන් අර එකම මත මාතෘකාවක් ගියා මම පොඩ්ඩක් වෙනස් කරන්න මට හිතුණා මොකක්ද කියන්නේ වඩි මේ අදහස කියලා බලන්න.
ඒක හරියටම හරි. චරිත් මමත් හිතන්නේ දැන් අපි ඔය වචන වල එච්චර මේ වෙන ආත්මාර්ථකාමීන් කියන්නේ මම හිතන්නේ ඕනම ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් කෙනෙක් වැඩ කරන්නේ තමන්ගේ උපරිම අභිවෘද්ධියට. ඉතින් ඒක කිසි වරදක් මට පේන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද සහාර තියෙන්නේ මේ අපි මෙන්න මේ අර යුනිවර්සල් ට්‍රූත්ස් හරි මෙන්න මේ අර රියැලිටි සමතක කරලා බොරුවට අපි කියන්න අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි අනිත් අය වෙනුවෙන් පෙනී ඉන්නවා. අපි හරීම සාමූහිකවාදී හිතන්නකෝ අපි 10 දෙනෙක්ට එකම ඉන්ටර්විව් එකක් තියෙනවා නම් එකම ක්‍රයිටීරියා එකක් නම් තියෙන්නේ අපිට එකම ක්වොලිෆිකේෂන් අපි කොච්චර සටන් කරනවද ඒ ඔපචුනිටි එක මට හම්බෙන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ මම හොඳටම පර්ෆෝම් කරන්න මට පුළුවන් හැමදේම මම කරනවා. එතකොට ඒක නරක දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. ඒතර ඒ හරහා මම හිතන්නේ අපි හැමෝගෙම හරි පොටෙන්ෂල් එක ඉස්සරහට එනවා. අපි හැමෝම ඩිවෙලොප් වෙනවා, දියුණු වෙනවා. ඒ දේ අපි තුල තියෙන. නමුත් අර මේ මං කිව්වා කලින් කිව්වාගේ ජෝන් ග්‍රේ කියන වගේ අපි තුල තියෙන ඉන්ඩිවිජුවලිස්ටික් හැඟීමම නෙමෙයි. අපි සමහර ලාවට කැමති අපි හැමෝටම තව කෙනෙක්ට එක්ස්පෝෂර් එක දෙන්න, කෙනෙක්ට ලැබෙන අවස්ථාවක් තව කෙනෙක්ට දෙන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ වගේ හැඟීමුත්, ඒ වගේ අපේ මනස ඒ වගේ වැඩ කරන පැත්තකුත් තියෙනවා. හයරාකි එක රිජෙක්ට් කරන පැත්තකුත් අපේ තියෙනවා. ඒතර මිනිස්සු කියන්නේ ඔන්න ඔය හැම හැඟීමකම එකතුවක්. හැබැයි ඔක්කොටම උඩින් අර අපි වෙනුවෙන් තමන් වෙනුවෙන් තමන් වැඩ කරන එක තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි මේ රියැලිටිස් අමතක කරන එක තේරුමක් නැහැ. ඒ නිසා තමයි මම විශ්වාස කරන්නේ අපි ඇත්ත අඳුරගෙන ඇත්තටම මිනිස්සයාට හියුමන් බීಯಿಂගේ ඇත්ත දේවල් අඳුරගෙන ඒ ටික ෆුල්ෆිල් වෙන්න තමයි මොනවා හරි දෙයක් හදා ගන්න ඕන කියන එක මම විශ්වාස කරන්නේ. ඒ නිසා තමයි අපි දැන් යුදී කියනවා වගේ ඉවොලුෂන් එක සහ අපිට වැරදුනා නම් ඒ වැරදිච්ච දේවල් වැරදි කියලා පිළි අරගෙන ඉස්සරහට යන එක අන්නේ දේවල් අපේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒකයි නැතුව කිසියම් තියරි එකක කිසියම් මොකක් හරි හොයාගත්ත සයන්ටිෆික් හරි තියරි එකක හරි මොනවා හරි දෙයක එළිලා ඒකේ ප්‍රශ්න කෙනෙක් වෙලා හිටියා කියලා මං හිතන්නේ අපිට කිසිම අපේ ප්‍රෝග්‍රස් එකක් වෙනවා කියලා. ඒ නිසා මට හිතෙන්නේ ලිබරලිසම් කියන්නේ මේ වගේ මාර ෆ්ලෙක්සිබල් ඉවෝල්ව් වෙන්න ඉඩ තියෙන, ග්‍රෝ වෙන්න ඉඩ තියෙන ඕනම ඔපිනියන් එකක් ඕනම අයිඩියා එකක් පිළිගන්න, අර අයිඩියාස් වලට බරක් තියනවා කියන එක පිළිගන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ අතේ පය හයියට වඩා අයිඩියාස් වලින් ලෝකෙ වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා විශ්වාස කරන. ඒ නිසා තමයි ලිබරලිසම් වලට මේ තරම් මිස්කන්සෙප්ෂන්ස් තියෙන්නේ. හේතුව මොකද හැම කෙනෙක්ම හෝම් එකක් හොයා ගන්නවා මේ අම්බ්‍රෙල් එක යට. මේ අම්බ්‍රෙල් එක ඒ තරම් වාස්ට් හැම කෙනෙක්ටම කිසියම් ප්ලේස් එකක් මේකේ තියෙනවා, කිසියම් ඉඩක් රෙකග්නිෂන් එකක් ඇක්සෙප්ටන්ස් එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා තමයි මේක යට ඉන්න පිරිස වැඩි හින්දා තමයි කියන්නේ ලිබරලිසම් කියන්නේ මේගොල්ලෝ විතරයි. කියන්නේ උදාහරණ කියන්නේ LGBT කමියුනිටි එක විතරයි මේක යට ඉන්නේ. මේක යට ඉන්නේ women rights සහ feminist විතරයි. මේක ඉන්නේ minorities විතරයි. ලිබර්ටේරියන්ස් විතරයි. රිච් ක්ලාස් එක විතරයි. කියන්නේ හැමෝටම මේකේ හෝම් එකක් තියෙනනේ. හැමෝටම තමන්ගේ ඩ්‍රීම්ස් පර්සියු කරන්න, ගෝල්ස් පර්සියු කරන්න පුළුවන්කම ඒ ඉඩ ඒ පිළිගැනීම තියෙන හින්දා තමයි ඒ විදියට මේකට මිස්කන්සෙප්ෂන්ස් වැඩි. ඒ නිසා මම නම් ඇත්තටම කියන්නේ එහෙම ගොඩ දෙනෙක්ට හෝම් එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙච්ච එකම ලිබරලිසම් වල තියෙන ජයග්‍රහණයක් කියන්නේ. ඉතින් එහෙම කියලා අපි අද වැඩේ ඉවර කරමු. මොකද ටයිම් එක මම හිතන්නේ 9 වෙලා. ඉතින් අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් නොවුනට මම හිතන්නේ ගොඩ හැමෝටම චරිත වගේ අදහස් ඇති සෙනුරි තාමත් වටිනා අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් කරා. කාලීනම ප්‍රශ්නයක් ගැන මේ වෙලාවේ ගොඩාක්ම සෝෂල් මීඩියා වල සහ මීඩියා වල දේවල් එක්ක උදිත්තත් මොනවා හරි කියන්න තියෙනවා. ඒකත් අපි කියමු. ප්‍රබුත් දාලා තියෙන මොකක් හරි අපි ඒකත් පස්සේ කියමු. උදිත් ඔයාගේ අදහස ඉදිරිපත් කරමු.
මට මේ thank you මේ මට අතම දෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් හරි අදහසකට වඩා කියන්නේ මම ඉගෙනගත්ත විදිහට දැන් ලිබරලිසම් වල කවුද යුදී සහ නොමිනි අර සෙනුරි අහපු ප්‍රශ්නෙට දුන්න උත්තරේදී කිව්වනේ මේ මොකද්ද කියන්නේ tolerance and මේ මොකක්ද කියන්නේ ලිබර්ටි ඒ කියන දෙක අතර දැන් ඔය කතාව දෝලණය වුණේ. දැන් එතෙන්දී මම ඉගෙන ගත්ත විදිහට ලිබරලිසම් වල ක්ලාසිකල් ලිබරලිසම් ඔව් එහෙමයි. හැබැයි මේ ලිබරලිසම් වල ඒ අර තර්ඩ් පාර්ටි එකක් මැදිහත් වෙන්නේ ඕකේ අර සීමාව තීරණය කරගන්න බැරි විදිහටනේ. කියන්නේ බැරි නිසා නැත්තර මේක වෙන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ යම්සි කෙනෙක් අදහස ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා. තව කෙනෙක් ඒක ටොලරේට් කරනවා. හරි තව වතාවක් තව ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා ඉන්න ඔබට ගිහිල්ලා. එයාත් ඒක ටොලරේට් කරනවා. ඔහොම ඔක ගිහිල්ලා ඉස්සරහට ඒක යම්සි ස්ථානයකදී යම්සි මේ ප්‍රශ්නකාරී තත්යකට එනවනේ. ඇත්තටම ටොලරන්ස් එක වුණත් කොච්චර ලෙවල් එකකට යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ ප්‍රශ්නකාරී තත්ත්වයකට එන්න පුළුවන්. මම හිතන්නේ එතනදී තමයි දැන් ලිබරල් වාදය කියන්නේ රජයේ මැදිහත් වීම මේ අනුමත නොකරන දෙයක් නෙවෙයි. කියන්නේ රජයේ කියන්නේ අර මොකද්ද මේ සෝෂල් ඉන්ජිනියරින් ඒගොල්ලෝ මේ ඇසෙප්ට් කරනවා ඇත්තට. ඒතර රජයේ මැදිහත් වීම සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ එතනදී. එතකොට මම හිතන්නේ අර දයාන් මේ chat එකට දාලා තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් කොහොමද ඒක ඩිසයිඩ් කරන්න අර ලෙවල් එක කියලා. මේ මොකද්ද මේ how do we draw the line කියලා මේ question එක අහලා තියෙන්නේ. මම හිතන්නේ එතන තමයි third party එක involve වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒක තමයි රජය. ඒතර රජය මේ ඒ තමයි අතරම මේ threshold එක define කරන්න ඕනේ. දැන් අර මේ සෙනුරි අහපු ප්‍රශ්නේදී අර දැන් වර්තමානයේ කතා වෙන ඒ කාරණේදී මේ අතර මට ඒකේ මේ ලෙවල් එක ඩිෆයින් කරන්න මට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද ඒක ටෙක්නිකල් කාරණාවක්. ඒක නෛතිකමය දෙයක් නැත්තම්. ඒතකොට මට ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් නෛතිකම දැනුමක් නැති නිසා මම ඒ ගැන කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි යම්සි threshold එකක් එතන තියෙන්න ඕන. ඒ ලෙවල් එක මොකක්ද කියන එක ඉතින් මේ නෛතිකම දැනුමක් තියෙන කෙනෙක් ඩිෆයින් කරන්න ඕනේ. මම ඕවරෝල් හිතනවා එතනදී තමයි මේ third party එක ඉන්වෝල්ව් වෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා. ඒක මේ යුදී සහ මේ නමිනිගේ එක්ස්ප්ලනේෂන්ස් වල මේ මතු වුණේ නැහැ මට තේරුණ විදියට. මේ එක් ගැන පොඩි උත්තරයක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් නම් මම මේ සතුටු වෙනවා අතරම. Thank you.
Yudi, can you please?
Yeah, with pleasure. So, Udit, okay, so when liberals say tolerance, it's not about accepting what others saying. So, liberals tolerance කියන්නේ it's that they got their own opinion. Respecting that opinion, that doesn't mean that you comply with that opinion. So, me being a no person being saying no to that doesn't, you shouldn't accept me. Okay, probably he got a point and we should let him be. It's not something to do on that end. So it's that you should let him talk, which to see the other side. So liberals believe that humans always should strive to be rational. So being rational, then you should find, I should be able to, so if I'm saying no, if other 23 are saying yes, then I should be able to reason my claim by proofs or by evidence or by reasons. That's what happened with Galileo Galilei or Albert Einstein, all the scientific theories that we know for. So they gave evidence, they proved it, then everyone believed it. So if I'm stating a claim, that's where the opinions comes in. So the opinions at the or the knowledge when they ask evidence and they ask proofs. If I can give that, then eventually it will be the evidence or the proof or knowledge eventually, or science on that case. So the tolerance, the value that liberals talk about, it's not about accepting it, it's about giving him the chance to say that. So that's exactly what's happening in democracies also. Democracy it's always majority. It's a majority rule. So 52% and 52% more than constitution more than 50%. So 52% is electing one president, and there are 48% who not agree with that. So, but the 48% can't go rioting and go against that rule, because they should accept the fact, tolerate the fact that they 52% have choose, and this is what we agreed for within our rule. So, but that doesn't mean again that the rule cannot be changed. So, rule is for the people. Always that should be there should be a communication. That's where democracy comes in as a political ideology. But in liberals, to the extreme, they believe in republicanism. So that means public rule. But that's kind of, that's where Immanuel Kant and other philosophers comes in. I'm not going to go to that end. But there should be always a communication. That's what the communicating way is democracy in liberal institution, liberal nations or states. But again, the tolerance part, it's not about accepting it. It's about giving them the chance to say it. But they still got the option to do that. But the option to, still believe that what they believe in. But liberals believe that humans as individuals always going to be rational, will be rational eventually. So they'll leave those parts, as in they'll accept the norm, accept the truth. So that's what happened in the human society all the time: slavery, imperialism, everything. So it was really good, as in it worked. Then we even with women voting. So it's just 100 years since women got rights to vote. So that's a drastic change, but it took time. But eventually we'll leave those behind. So that's what liberals believe in. Eventually the growth will be fine. But always, again, for that to happen, we need that tolerance part, just to raise the opinions, not to accept the fact, okay, whatever he says right or something as such. Just
Yeah,
to give
and
it.
also yeah, but he said it's 100% true, and I agree. And also that, yeah, same thing. I would like to say that tolerance is not accepting what the other person says. It's all about, we are accepting that there can be other point of views regarding the same topic. So that is what tolerance is. But we are, at the end of the day, we are not happy that the other people also they hold different opinions on the same topic. That's why we need peace. So we have to convince others, and we need to win them to our opinion. But what liberals do is we have to find peaceful ways to convince people to our opinion. So that is the difference. We are not going to fight. We are not going to, initiate wars between countries. But we love this concept of, convincing others to our idea by good ideas and good theories, good values, like that. And also, Yudi, do we have time to get another question? There's a question in the chat box.
Yeah, sure, Navini.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
sure that Udit is fine. Is there anything to add on, Udit?
Yeah, Yudhya, I'm fine with the answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah. So if you want to give an example, just to go back to what I said here, again, the pen, it can be the metal or the pen, but it's the society that decides whether it's going to be a pen or the metal. It depends on the society. So Lankave, probably we don't need it as a pen, or if we want it as a pen, we can decide it as a pen. So we can't expect that to be happening in other nation as well. So US willing may probably, the value for this as a metal is more than the pen. So they don't know how to read and write. They're going to make a pen killer, but so they just need it as a metal. So the value, the fact is it's a metal and a pen. Both are the facts, but the value that they give changes with the society and changes with time as well as place.
yes, Diane, this is Diane's question. So I'm sorry, I can't speak since I'm in a crowded place, since I'm typing. My question is, where do we draw the line when it comes to rational thinking and an expression of one's opinion, especially if one's opinion could disturb a common belief or understanding on a particular subject like a religion?
Yeah,
The question is in the chat box also. You also can...
yeah, I think we kind of touched on that with that, and that's where Senuri intervened and
yeah.
expressed her opinion. But again, just to touch on opinions, so we should give a chance to express their opinions. So on the only issue but that liberals see here is, unless the platform is uneven, as in so let's say that I am a president or president to that level of post, I can say stuff. I can say not so stuff also. I can say what I believe in, my opinion. But again, that should be given a chance. But to counter that, there should be equal platform others to also say. So that's where the social media is considered to be one of the biggest revolution because of that, because that gives a open platform for everyone to talk. So even though I am a president, Mang posted them in FB, every one of you can comment on that, can reply to that. So that kind of equalize the platform for us to have that conversation, of that argument, to share our knowledge, to share the dialogue. So as long as the platform is equal, there's no issue. Even to the extent, again, I'm not going to go to the extreme side of it, even to the extent of hate speech. Even hate speech, they liberals ignore the emotional part of it, because being you trying to be rational, you take the rational part, the knowledge out of it, and you rationalize from that. You don't evolve in the emotional part. Again, when I say something against your values or against your religion, automatically your emotional part is the one that taps in. So liberals, that's why in the beginning itself I said, so there are other souls or other aspects of our life which always trump our rational mind. So liberals want to get rid of that. That's where the institutions comes in. They keep on check with others intervening, or these kind of, that's where rule of law, or even other institutions, it can be private institutions as well, or rules or norms, that you don't say these kind of words in public because it kind of affect people. Likewise, but as long as the platform is equal, liberals are fine with your expression. But in this case, I'm not going to go to the exact scenario here, but if the platform isn't equal, then there we have a problem. That's where the institutions involved. Yeah, Senori.
I completely agree with you about the fact that how the platform needs to be equal and everyone needs to be given the space to opinionate whatever they think, right? But given that particular question itself, like that is why I brought in the law as well, because as developing countries, we still have a lot of government intervention and everything. And it's not like, for example, like if I take like now it's this month is the Pride month, but if I go and say, okay, like LGBTIQ is like an absolute nonsense, right? Which actually happens. There's a lot of people talking about it and saying like it's all fake, it's just a nuisance, and like this new generation mental issues, and any way of degrading. But what we are trying to do as liberals is to be as rational as possible and not to hurt someone else. So the hurt part, again, like I'm telling the word harm and hurt, which is which is very subjective. And for example, like if I say like LGBTIQ is like an absolute nonsense, someone might be like, yeah, okay, it was just a statement. But for someone else, it would be like an offense. So it is very subjective. But then again, as humans, it's not about liberals, it's not about anything else. But as humans, what we try to do is we to have a conversation, even you need to respect the other person's opinion. Like even if I'm saying the wrong thing, you need to like have that patience, like the tolerance, like Yudi said, to listen to the other person. ඒ කියන එක අහලා එතනින් එහාට මොනවද කරන්නේ, එතනින් එහාට මං හිතන දේ කියන එක වෙනම දෙයක්. හැබැයි අපි අර අනිත් කෙනාට ගරු කරලානේ ඒ කතාවක් අපි පවත්වගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. මේක තමයි තියෙන්න ඕනේ. හැබැයි ඒක අපිට දැන් ලිබරල්ස් කියලා ෆ්‍රීඩම් ඔෆ් ස්පීච් කියලා අපි ඒක අනන්තයට වගේ යන්න කියොත් එහෙම හැමෝටම ඕනේ දේ කියන්න. අර ඒ වගේ දෙයක් නිසානේ අර යුද්ධ ඉස්සලා කිව්වා වගේම morals ගැන laws හරි එහෙම නැත්නම් අපේ ඒ කියන්නේ ethics අපි හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ මොකක් හරි හේතුවක් මතනේ. අනේ හේතුව සම්බන්ධයෙන් තමයි ඒතර ඔය මේ particular කාරණාව ඔය social media stand up comedian ගේ මේකෙම ඒක එයාගේ freedom of expression එක අනිවාර්යෙන්ම තියෙනවා. හැබැයි රටක නීතියක් තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඒ නීතියටත් ගරු කරන්න ඕනේ කියන එක තියෙනවා කොහොමද? මොකද අපිට ගිහිලා අර යුද්ධ කිව්වා වගේ පාරේ ට්‍රැෆික් අපිට ඕනි දේ කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. කැමති විදිහට එලවන්න කියත් එහෙම හැම මිනිස්සයම අපි කාටවත් කොහෙටවත් යන්න බැරි වෙනවා. So even if it's like liberals or whoever it is, I think what we basically need to understand is we are all humans. And ඒ foundation එක මත තමයි අනිත් ඒවා ගොඩනගා ගන්න ඕනේ. Okay, that's about it.
Thank you, Senri, very much. Man can 100% agree to what you said. I mean, like, it's to the point. මේ කිසිම වෙලාවක මං හිතන්නේ මේ අර අපි තව කෙනෙක් hurt වෙනවා කියලා දැනගෙන අපි කතා කරනවා හරි මොනවා හරි rules regulations තියෙනවා ඒවා හැදිලා තියෙන්නේත් අපි කියන smooth survival එකට ඒ වගේම තමයි liberals ට එන අනිත් ලොකුම threat එක සහ අනිත් ලොකුම මං හිතන්නේ මේ මොකද කියන්නේ විවේචනය වෙන්නේ අර liberals තමයි මේ හැම දෙයකටම වක් කියන්න ඕන මේ අනවශ්‍ය නිදහසක් හැම දෙයකටම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙලා කියලා මං හිතන්නේ ඒකත් මේ අපේ liberty සහ ෆ්‍රීඩම්ස් ගැන අපේ තියෙන මේ අපිට තියෙන වැරදි ඉන්ටර්ප්‍රිටේෂන් එක සහ වැරදි අර්ථකථනය. මොකද නිදහස කියන්නේ ඔය කිසි දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. මං හිතන්නේ වෙලාවක් තියෙනවා අපිට තරම් පුළුල්ව ලිබර්ටි එක හරි ලිබර්ටි හෝ ෆ්‍රීඩම්ස් ගැන මෙතන කතා කරන්න. නමුත් මේ ලිබරල් වාදය කියන්නේ ඒ කිසිම දෙයකට මේ පදනම් වෙන දෙයක්. මේ විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ වෙලාවේ මේ සමාජයේ ඇති වෙලා තියෙන කතා බහ ගැන නම් මං හිතන්නේ අපි එච්චර අවධානයක් දෙනවනේ. මොකද ඒක භාෂණ නිදහස ගැනවත් එහෙම නැතුව මේ අනිත් දේ ගැනටත් වඩා ඒක ඕනට වඩා පොලිටිසයිස් වෙලා මේ වෙලාවේ තියෙනවා කියන එක තමයි දකින්න පුළුවන්. අර කියන වගේ ෆ්‍රීඩම් of expression තියෙනවා වගේම හැම දෙයකටම කිසියම් ලිමිට් එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒ ලිමිට්ස් ඇති වෙලා තියෙන්නේ සමාජයේ අර කන්ටිනියස් සහ ස්මූත් සර්වයිවල් එකට. ඉතින් යම් දේවල් ඉස්සර කාලේ තිබ්බ දේවල් අද වෙනකොට සමහර ඒවා වෙනස් වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ දේවල් වලින් තව අයගේ අයිතිවාසිකම් සීමා වෙන්න නිසා ඉතින් ඒවා හරිම අර මේ ඒ අවස්ථාව එක අපි කියව ගන්න ඕන දේවල්. නමුත් 100%ලිම මේ සෙන්රි කියන දෙයට අපි ඇග්‍රි වෙනවා. මොකද මම පුද්ගලිකව ඇග්‍රි වෙනවා. හේතුව මේ ලිබරල්ස් ගැන වැරදියට අර්ථකථනය කරන්න ගොඩාක් පෙළඹිලා තියෙන්නේ මේ ආගම් විවේචනය කරන්නේ ආගම් වලට පහර දෙන්නේ ලිබරල්ස් කියන එක. නමුත් ඒක මාරම වැරදි දෙයක්. මොකද මම හිතන්නේ ලිබරල්ස් තමයි ඉතිහාසයේ පළවෙනි වතාව ඉඳන් මේ අර right to religion කියන එකට කියන්නේ අපි කැමති විශ්වාසයක් දරන්න කියන අයිතිවාසිකම් වලට මූලික වෙලා වැඩ කරේ. අපි හැමෝම දන්නවා UDHR එකේ ඉඳන් අද දක්වා තියෙන ගොඩාක් international human rights convention සහ මේ instruments වලට ගොඩාක්ම පදනම් වෙලා තියෙන liberals රටවල් ඇතුළත් එහෙමයි ගොඩාක් අපි හැමෝගෙම මේ fundamental rights human rights සහ අපේ ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් රයිට්ස් වලට ගොඩාක්ම ඇඩ්වොකේට් කරන්නේ ලිබරල්ස්. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මේ හැම දෙනාගේම ආගමක් විශ්වාසයක් අදහන්න ඒවා ප්‍රොමෝට් කරන්න තියෙන අයිතිවාසිකම් වෙනුවෙන් පෙනී ඉන්නේ ලිබරල්ස්. ඉතින් අර මේ මම අද හවසත් අපේ ගෲප් එකේ ෂෙයා කරා තෝමස් මුවර් යාගේ අර යුටෝපියා කියන මේ ග්‍රන්ථය කොහොමද මේ ඔන්න ඔය ආගම් සම්බන්ධයෙන් ටොලරන්ස් කියන එක අදාළ කරගන්නේ කියන එක. ඉතින් අර ඒක කියන්නේත් අර ඒක හරිම ලෝෆුල් ඕනම මිනිස්සෙක් තමන් විශ්වාස කරන ආගමක් අදහන එක අනුගමනය කරන එක සහ තමන්ගේ ආගමට වෙන කෙනෙක් කැමති කරව ගන්න ඒක ප්‍රවර්ධනය කරන එක ප්‍රොමෝට් කරන එක. ඒ වෙනුවෙන් අපි ඕනම දෙයක් කරනවා සහ ඒක හරිම අන්ඩර්ස්ටෑන්ඩබල් සහ ඒක හරිම ලෝෆුල් එහෙම කරන එක. හැබැයි මේ මොනව කරත් කරන දේ සාමකාමීව බොහොම මෘදුව හරිම මේ බුද්ධිමත්ව කරන්න ඕනේ. තව කෙනෙක්ව රිද්දන්න නැතුව, ඊටමත් අපහාසාත්මක නිර්දය විවේචන නැතුව කරන්න ඕන කියන එක තමයි කියන්නේ. ඒකට ඕක ටොලරන්ස් කොහොමද ආගමට අදාළ වෙන්නේ කියලා තෝමස් මුවර් සම්බන්ධ කරලා කතා කරනවා. මම නම් ඒක ඒ විදිහටම දේශපාලන මතවාද ප්‍රවර්ධනය කිරීමටත් අදාළ කරලා කතා කරන්න කැමතියි. මොකද අපි ඕන කෙනෙක්ට අපි කැමති දේශපාලන මතයක් දරන්න, දේශපාලන අදහසක් දරන්න, ඒව ප්‍රවර්ධනය කරන්න, අපේ කැමති දේශපාලන අදහසට අනිත් අයව නම්ව ගන්න අපි හැමෝම කැමතියි. නමුත් ඒ කරන දේ අනිත් අය බොහොම නරක විදියට, කැත විදියට විවේචනය කරලා, අපහාස උපහාස කරලා, නරක විදියේ අර මාධ්‍ය ප්‍රචාරණයන් සමාජ මාධ්‍යයෙන් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, මේන් ස්ට්‍රීම් මීඩියා වලින් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැතුව අපේ මතවාදය ප්‍රවර්ධනය කරන්න, අපේ දෙයට වැලියුස් මත පදනම් වුණොත් අපිට පුළුවන් කියන දේ තමයි මම හිතන්නේ අපිත් සමාජගත කරන්න ඕනේ. සමාජයේ කණ්ඩායම් විදිහට මෙහෙම එකතු වෙලා වැඩ කරන. ඒතර ඒක මම හිතන්නේ ආගම් වලට, දේශපාලන මතවාද වලට සහ අපි කරන අනිත් හැම දෙයකටම මොනවා හරි බර්නින් ඉෂුව එකක් සමාජයේ තියෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ මේ ඉෂුව එක ගැන අපි කතා කරද්දී ඔන්න ඔය ක්‍රමවේදය අනුගමනය කරනවා නම් මම හිතන්නේ අර හරිම ෆෘට්ෆුල් මේ කන්ක්ලූෂන් එකකට අපිට එන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද අපි සමහර ලාවට ඔපොසිෂන් එකේ හිටියා කියලා, ඔපොසිට් සයිඩ් එකේ වාඩි වෙලා හිටියා කියලා මේ අනිත් පැත්ත ගේන හැම දෙයකටම විරුද්ධ වෙන්න ඕන කියලා දෙයක් නෑ. අපිට ඇග්‍රි වෙන්න පුළුවන් තැන්වලදී අපි ඇග්‍රි වෙන්න තරම් මම හිතන්නේ අපි ෆ්ලෙක්සිබල් වෙන්න ඕනේ. සහ අපි ප්‍රොපෝස් කරන ප්‍රොපොසිෂන් පැත්තත් හැම වෙලේම වැලියුස් මත, ෆැක්ට්ස් මත, ෆැක්ට්ස් වලට හගින් වැලියුස් මත පදනම් වෙලා තමන්ගේ දේවල් ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා නම් අපට ඔන්න ඔය කන්සෙන්සස් කියන එක, කන්සෙන්ස් බිල්ඩින් කියන එක යොදා ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරනවා. ඒක තමයි මට කියන්න තියෙන්නේ. කාට හරි තව මොනවා හරි අදහසක් ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා නම් ඉදිරිපත් කළා අපිට මෙහෙම වැඩසටහන් නවත්තන්න පුළුවන්. මම දැක්ක කවිෂා මුලදී අත උස්සලා තියෙනවා. මොකද ඇත්තටම මේක කවිෂා තමයි ඇත්තටම මේ සෙෂන් එක අපෙන් ඉල්ලුවේ. මෙහෙම එකක් කරමු මෙන්න මේ ඇත්තටම කියනවා නම් මේක මේ රටේ මේ වෙලාවේ කතා බහ වෙන්න දේවල් එක්ක. ඒ නිසා කවිෂා
Yeah, Navyakke, thank you very much, and thank you very much for the session. I had few questions, but they were resolved, and I got the solutions with the Udit's question and so on. So thank you very much.
thank you කවිෂා, thank you very much then. So අපිට එහෙනම් මම හිතන්නේ එතනින් අපේ අදහස් සහ ප්‍රශ්න ගැටලු තියෙනවා නම් අපිට කොහොම වුණත් අපේ වෙලාවත් එක්ක මම හිතන්නේ අපිට නවතින්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. ඉතින් මම ඉතාමත් සතුටු වෙනවා අවසන් මොහොත දක්වා 20 දෙනෙක්ගේ engagement එකක් තිබුණා 32ක් මුලින් හිටියා. එයාලා මට සමහර අය message කළාම අයින් වුණා. එයාලගේ පන්ති සහ වෙන වැඩත් එක්ක සහ කීප දෙනෙක් message කරලා තිබුණා. අද පොසොන් පොයේ නිසා යම් යම් වැඩවලට එළියට යන දේවල් එක්ක එකතු වෙන්න වෙන්නේ නැහැ. සහ සමහර අය මැදදී මැසේජ් කළාම කියලා අයින් වෙලා ගිහින් තිබුණා. ඉතින් මට ඉතාමත් සතුටුයි 20 දෙනෙක් අවසන් මොහොත වෙනකන් වෙලාවත් පැනලා හිටියා. මොකද ඉතාමත් මං ඉදීට ගොඩාක් ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා මේ ඉතාමත් සංකීර්ණ ෆිලොසොෆි එකක් මෙහිම ඉතාමත් කෙටි කාලයකට සමරයිස් කරලා අපිට ඒ ෆිලොසොෆර්ස්ලත් එක්ක හරිම මේක සයන්ටිෆිකලි අපිට මෙන්න මේ අයිඩියොලොජි එක ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිවිසම් රීසන් නොලෙජ් සහ රැෂනලිසම් වගේ ඉතාමත් සංකීර්ණ තලයේ තියෙන දේවල් ඉතාමත් සරලව ඉතාමත් කෙටි කාලයක් තුල අපිට ගොනු කරලා දුන්නට මම හිතන්නේ අපිට ලොකු බේස්මන්ට් එකක් හදනවා අපි කොහොමද දේවල් දකින්න ඕන කියන එක ගැන. මොකද මේ සමහර දේවල් අපි දන්නේ නැති වුණාට මේ ලෝකේ එක්ක අතීතේ වෙලා තියෙනවා එක්ක මේ කන්ටෙම්පරරි වර්ල්ඩ් එකේ කොහේ හරි වෙනවා. ඉතින් ඉතිහාසය කියන්නේ ඒ තරම් දුර ඉතිහාසයේ ප්ලේටෝලා ඇරිස්ටෝටල්ලා කියපු දේවලුත් සමහර දේවල් අදටත් වළංගු බව පේනවා. කොහොමද අපි අපේ ජීවිත කියව ගන්න ඕන විදිය කියන එක. ඉතින් ඒ දේවල් යුදී මම හිතන්නේ අද අපිට තාමත් සරලව කියලා දුන්නා. ඉතින් ඒක ලිබරලිසම් වලටත් පදනම අපේ මේ වැලියුස් වලටත් පදනම සහ ඔක්කොටම වඩා මට හිතෙනවා ඒක අපේ අර මේ අපි හිතන විදිය ටිකක් පුළුල් කරන්න හේතු වෙන්නේ නැති කියලා. මොකද අපි ගොඩාක් සෝෂල් ඩිස්කෂන්ස් වල ඩිබේට්ස් වලට එන්ගේජ් වුණාට ගොඩාක් වෙලාවට අපි මේ ෆිලොසොෆිකල් බෑග්ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් එක ගැන තියෙන අපේ දැනුම අඩුයි. ඉතින් මම විශ්වාස කරනවා අපිට ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් එකට පුළුවන් වේවි කියලා තාමත් උදුරු අනාගතේ අපිට ෆිසිකල් සෙෂන් එකක් ගන්න ස්ටුඩන්ට් ෆෝර් ලිබර්ටි ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකත් එක්කම ටිකක් ගැඹුරෙන් මේ දේවල් කතා කරලා අපේ හොරයිසන්ස් බ්‍රෝඩ් කරගන්න ෆිලොසොෆිකල් වයිස්. ඒකට මම හිතනවා මේක මීට වඩා ෆිසිකල් අපි කරොත් අපේ එන්ගේජ්මන්ට් එක වගේම ඉන්ටරැක්ෂන් එකත් වැඩි වෙයි. අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් වෙයි. කතා බහ කරයි. ඒ හරහා අපිට බොහොම හොඳ නිගමනයකට අවසානයේ ලැබෙන්නත් පුළුවන් වෙයි. ඉදිරියට අපි කොහොමද මේ සමාජයේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට අපිට දායක වෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක ගැන. ඉතින් මම ආරාධනා කරනවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ හැමදෙනෙක්ටම මේ ගැන තව දුරටත් කියවන්න. යුදී මට ෂෙයා කරන දේවල් මම ඔයාලත් එක්ක ෂෙයා කරන්නම් සහ අපි ළඟත් රීඩින් මැටීරියල්ස් තියෙනවා ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් එක ළඟත් ඒවත් ඔයාලත් එක්ක ෂෙයා කරන්නම්. ඒ වගේම ඔයාලගේ රික්වෙස්ට් එකක් තියෙනවා නම් මේ වැලියුස් ගැන තව දුරටත් කතා කරන්න. මොකද අපිත් වැලියුස් අටක් ඩිස්කස් කරනවා සහ අද මේ කතා කරපු මේ ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිවිසම් මේ දේවල් ගැන වැඩිපුර දැනගන්න කැමති නම් අපිට ඔයාලගේ අදහස ඊමේල් එකක් මාර්ගයෙන් හරි WhatsApp group එකට හරි දාන්න. ඒතර මේ වගේම ඩිස්කෂන් එකක් ඒ අදාළ ටොපික් එකත් එක්ක අපිට ඕගනයිස් කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා මම හිතනවා. ඒ නිසා කියන්නේ මොනවා හරි දෙයක් කරනකොට ඔයාලගේ ඉල්ලීමත් එක්ක දෙයක් කරොත් මේ වගේ ඉතාමත් උනන්දුවෙන් සහභාගීත්වයේ තියෙයි කියලා හිතනවා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා මම හිතනවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් පේජ් එක Facebook පේජ් එක ලයික් කරලා නැත්නම් ලයික් කරන්න. මොකද මේක ලයිව් ස්ට්‍රීම් කරනවා පේජ් එකේ. පස්සේ උනත් බලන්න පුළුවන්. අපේ WhatsApp group එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒවා මේ වෙලාවේ මම හිතන්නේ chat box එකට දාලා තියෙනවා. WhatsApp group එකේ groups දෙකක් තියෙන එකක් තමයි bigger WhatsApp group එක. අනිත් එක තමයි working team එක. ඔයාලට ලිබරල් යූත් මූව්මන්ට් එක කියන්නේ voluntary organisation එකක්. හැමෝම volunteer කරන්නේ. ඒ නිසා අපි ගොඩක් සමාජ ප්‍රශ්න කතා බහ කරනවා. ඒවට අපිට තරුණයන් විදිහට මොනවද කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක සහ අපි ප්‍රැක්ටිකලි ගොඩක් දේවල් මේ වෙදි කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒව දැනගන්න වගේම ඕගොල්ලොත් එකතු වෙලා වැඩ කරන්න කැමති නම් ඒ groups වලට එකතු වෙන්න කියලාත් මම ආරාධනා කරනවා. ඒ හැම ආරාධනාවකින් එක්කම මම හිතන්නේ අද දවසේ වැඩසටහන අපි අවසන් කරන්න වෙලාවට ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්නවා. ඒ නිසා මම මුලින්ම නැවතත් යුදීටත් සහභාගී වෙලා මෙච්චර වෙලා අපිත් එක්ක ඉඳපු හැම දිනාටම ස්තුති කරමින් වැඩසටහන අවසන් කරනවා. බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
Thank you all. Thank you for spending your time with us though.